Have you ever wondered what is coaching all about? Have you asked yourself the question, can you coach yourself? And if you do want to coach yourself, then how do you go about doing it? That's what we're going to be discussing today. All right. If this is the first time you're attending my session, welcome. I see some familiar names as well. All right. And I'm going to be your facilitator for the next 2.5 hours. My name is Ewan, by the way, and I'm a practicing career coach. This is my almost 8th year now as a private practitioner, as a career coach. Right. And apart from actually helping people in terms of coaching them, right, I also conduct workshops like this. Right, today's topic, actually, I've done the same topic in December. Right, and I took a little break because I had to undergo an eye operation. For those of you who have been in my past workshops before, you know something different. Right, I'm wearing glasses now. Okay, but things have improved for me. Okay, so that's why I took a break in January. Now, those of you who've been to my past workshop in December on this topic, all right, today I'm going to provide some updates and some new content based on the questions you have asked to me in that session, as well as the follow-on sessions as well. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Now, apart from this type of workshops, those of you who have are first time with me, you will also know that I have actually conducted other topics as well, as you can see around here. Okay, and over the next few months, these topics will come up again, and I'll share with you the schedule for my upcoming WSG sessions like this as well. All right, towards the end, so you can take a look at that. Right, I also created my own online e-learning course based on making a career switch, because that's my specialty. Okay, in fact, most of my clients are people who are actually wanting to make a career switch. So I decided to actually also create an e-course for people who wish to learn more about this in another way. Right? At the same time, one of my main activities is also actually to train other people to become career coaches. And I do this through an international body. So people who attend my course will get an international credential. Okay, and it's funny because every time I do this particular topic, coaching yourself to career success, many people actually get the feel of coaching and they say they want to learn to be coaches. So they contacted me or for some information or some insight as to how to become a career coach. So maybe you will feel that way too. In any case, I'll share more about that information towards the end of today's session. Okay, is that all right, everyone? Okay. Good. Now, I told you a little bit about myself. So what I like to do is maybe find out a little bit about you as well. Okay, so I'm going to ask you 3 sets of questions. Okay, and I'm going to do this in the form of a poll. I hope you can help me fill up this poll, because the answers that you give me will give me an idea as to which part of my session I can focus more on. Is that all right? Okay, so I'm going to launch this poll here. All right. Okay, so you should see it on your screen. Now, we are supposed to have about 130 people who've registered. So hopefully at least, now it's about 50 people. So hopefully we get at least 80% of the people fill this up. Okay, if you can do me a favor and do so that I know where I'm going to pay more attention to during today's session. So let's see what we have here so far. Okay, so far now about 50% have participated, and based on that right now, well, slight majority, slightly more people have said they've not been with a career coach. In terms of current work status, okay, more people seem to be unemployed for less than 6 months. Oh no, there are quite a few working full-time as well. And have you been to my previous sessions? Okay, just slightly more people, about 56% of you have not been to my workshops before. So a lot of the stuff that I've mentioned will probably be pretty new to you. Okay, all right. So let's leave this on for another couple of maybe about a minute or so to see if anybody else the results change. Let's see now. Okay, still seems to be pretty the same as before. Okay, so majority again, well, not saying majority, quite close. Unemployment majority of you are unemployed. Okay, slightly more are unemployed more than 6 months, but there's also a fair chunk of you who are still currently employed. Oh, how come got people talking? Okay, all right. So most of you have not been to my sessions before. Okay, so I think we have 72% of you have participated. So I think I should get enough information now. So I'm going to end this poll here. All right. Thank you so much for sharing your information with me. Excellent. So I know how I'm going to focus more on today's session, which is basically towards most of you who are unemployed, and quite a few of you have not been through career coaching before. All right. All right. My next question I'm going to ask you, again, this is something going to help me. All right. Is what sort of career issues you are facing right now? Can you type into the chat box what sort of career issues you are facing right now so that we can understand this? Can you type into the chat box? Let me know. Okay. So, Ting Ting says fear. Anybody else? Unemployment. Role no longer in demand in Singapore. Okay. Don't know what is the right path for me. Okay. Very strong questions. Anxiety. Okay. Thank you so much, GS. Any other career issues? Right? We all have to start with a problem to solve, right? So that's why it's hard to find a job that can have work-life balance. Understand? Cannot secure interview, pass over promotion, no career progression. Ageism. Thank you so much, Wei Ming. Boss is micromanaging. We hate that type of boss, right? Okay, excellent. May want to switch rejection from interviews. Thank you so much. Need time to understand myself, right? Okay, AI, ChatGPT, understand? Okay, good. Many excellent, I won't say excellent, but I think many significant issues that you are faced with. And hopefully today, I'm going to give you an idea as to how you can deal with those issues. But I think one overarching issue we need to be very aware of that will happen in 2023 is this, all right? Almost every article about the economy projections for 2023 has a common message. And they're all saying that things are not going to look good for this year. Okay? Things are not going to look good for this year. Right? So that is an overarching issue. And we have to then be very conscious as to how we manage our career pathing, our career progression, and indeed even finding the right job. So hopefully today, all right, I'm going to give you some idea on how to do this. All right. Now, when we have career issues, one of the first things we need to understand is this. What do we mean by career success? We have to visualize that career success, right? And coaching is basically a path to this. Is basically a path to this. Right? Now, those of you, 49% of you have been through, have worked with a career coach. What can you tell me? What is coaching? When you went through a coaching session, what did you experience when you went through a coaching session? Can you type into the chat box? What did you experience when you went through a coaching session? For the 49% of you who have been working with a coach before, what have you experienced when you worked with another coach? Can you type into the chat box? Anyone? Okay, Noor says help to refine my resume, how to answer interview questions better. Spot blind spots. Okay, helped you went through interview for upskilling. Very good. Any others? Any other comments? Sounding board. I like that to clarify my own thoughts. Yeah. Anybody else? Too general. Okay, so it was very specific to you. Okay, provide advice from a macro perspective. Thank you so much, Benedict. All right, thank you so much. So essentially, if you look at it, when you undergo a coaching session with a professional coach, the focus here is really to help you what? To help you develop and or enhance your own personal capabilities. Develop or enhance your own capabilities. Now, I came across this particular definition just about an hour ago when I was scouring through the internet, and maybe I share this with you. Okay, Somebody wrote here, a coach is someone who provides guidance for your development, often focusing on soft skills, active listening rather than technical skills. Okay. Now, who drives the relationship is actually between you and the coach, right? You can reach out to him or her, but the coach can also reach out to you to follow up with you. All right. So what are the actions here? Provide developmental feedback outside the formal performance evaluation process. So essentially, this captures the essence of a coaching relationship. All right. So what happens when you self-coach? What happens when you self-coach? That means you are working on it by yourself. If you look at it, when you are, all of us are actually capable of working on our own individual capabilities. But when we do this, right, when we are focusing on our own personal development, we essentially want to focus on what? The things that we know. So in other words, you'll be surprised, right? When someone asks you questions, the right questions, very, very often you can come up with the solutions yourself. Okay? It's just a trick of asking the right questions. Okay? So that is the key here. So when you are self-coaching, you are actually digging into your own inner wisdom, your own inner knowledge to try and come up with a possible solution for your issues. Okay, so that is the basis of self-coaching. Now, what happens if there are some knowledge or information that you don't know? Well, I'm going to deal with that as well, right? And to deal with this, all right, I'm going to describe to you a career development process. Now, there are a lot of ways to do this, but I think I want to keep it simple. So I'm going to keep it to 4 steps. Okay, 4 categories. Let's put it that way, not 4 steps, 4 categories. Okay, so essentially, these are the 4 categories. Okay, knowing yourself, exploring options, getting focus and taking action, right? And this is a reiterative process, right? So it goes back and forth, right? So that is the important thing that we all need to understand. It is a process, it's a reiterative process. Okay, so that is the topic for today over the next couple of hours or so. All right, so normally I try to finish my half-day sessions to about maybe 4 o'clock or so. Because a lot of time, the last half hour, many people want to ask many general off-topic career coaching related questions. So I'm going to give you all some time on this. However, right, I'm also going to give you all time throughout this whole session to ask questions. But as you know, that I've muted all of you now here because, based on past experiences, I just want to make sure that we don't get disrupted by background noise. All right. However, if you got questions, please type it into the chat box. Okay, and mark it with a capital letter Q so that when I scan the chat box, I know these are questions and I'll deal with these questions. Now, the time when I deal with these questions will be after each section here. Okay, so and if your questions are related to each of the section, I will answer those questions at that section, at the end of that section itself. All right. And there's a very particular reason for this as well. Those of you who have been to my past sessions, I actually record this workshop. Okay, and I edit when I release the video of this workshop to the public, I edit out the questions for privacy purposes. Okay, so towards the end, I edit out those portions itself. Right, but I'm going to give you a way to actually access the recording of this video towards the end. All right, so don't worry about this. So that means that I'm not going to give you all handouts. Okay, a lot of questions have been asked to me about whether I give handouts or not. I don't, but I'm going to give you a link to the video, right, so that you can view the actual video itself later on. All right, now since we only have a short period here as well together, right, as far as breaks is concerned, I can't give you too many breaks, but I'm going to give you at least one, probably around 3 o'clock or just past 3 o'clock. All right, so that this is marks probably a halfway point. All right, maybe about 5 or 10 minute breaks, depending on how we progress. Okay, and also what I encourage all of you to do throughout the whole session, I'm going to give you exercises that you can do either during the session or as a takeaway. So please do have something on hand, whether it's your computer or whether it's a piece of paper or whatever. Take down the notes, all right? Because these are going to be very useful for you. Okay, so the more you, how should I put it, participate in the activities, in the templates that I pass to you, all right, the more you will get out of today's session. After all, you're going to spend 2.5 hours with me, so try and get the most out of it. All right, is this okay, everyone? If this is okay, please type into the chat box. Yes, this is great. So that I know that you are listening here. Okay. All right. Thank you, Gary. Okay. Very good. Okay. Now, towards the end, you see down there, there's extras. All right. I am going to, for those of you who've been to my past workshops before, you will know, okay, this is the time where I actually elaborate a little bit more on how you can continue working with me after the session itself. Okay, so that's only for those of you who wish to stay on for that particular portion. But at the summary part, I'm going to actually answer some questions that maybe I won't cover here, but maybe more on the overall context of today's topic. And these are some questions that have actually been asked to me during the interim period in January, when I told my subscribers that I'm going to do this particular workshop. Okay. Yes, Ting Ting, I'm going to talk about Chat GPT, all right, or AI in general. All right, let's see how we can come to this topic in a little while. Okay, good. So let's start, shall we? All right, let's start on the first one, which is knowing yourself. Knowing yourself. Okay, now in this portion, knowing yourself, okay, I'm going to cover these items. Okay, the values, the interests, your personality, your skills, or your strengths. What we coaches call the VIPS. Okay, so if you worked with a coach before, right? If he asks you what your VIPS is, that is what it means. Okay, now at the end of this, hopefully what you get out here is really, find out for yourself what or who is important to you. Okay, what is important to you, who is important to you, because you need to understand that so that you have an idea of what you want to do, right? At the end of this session as well, this particular topic, this segment, right, I hope you will also have an understanding and insight into your strengths, your expertise. Okay, now what happens when you have these two things, have these two sets of knowledge? It's really then you are in a great position to understand what sort of problems you can help other people. And why we need this is a critical part of it. I'm going to explain to you when I get there. Okay, so these are the three elements that I'm going to sort of hope you attain at the end of this particular component itself. Okay, right. So let's talk about the first one. Okay, who is important? When we work, when we embark on our career, we always do it for someone, whether it's for yourself or whether it's for your family, for your friends, or whoever it is, your partner. Okay, but sometimes it's worthwhile for us to take a back seat and say, okay, and be very clear, who am I doing all this for? Who am I doing all this for? You may want to ask yourself a few questions. Okay, again, take this down. You may ask yourself the first question: who am I doing this for? Is it for my child? Is it for my family? Is it for my partner? Is it for myself? Those of you who are unattached, fine, but put it down. Be very clear about this. Okay, so that's the first question you want to ask yourself. Next question you want to ask yourself is this: why do I need to succeed? Why do I need to have career success? What does this give to me if I have career success? Okay, maybe this question is not so easy to answer, but I think you need to try and answer this. Gain clarity for yourself. Why do you need to have career success? Okay, that's the second question. Are we okay so far? Right, so two very important questions you ask yourself. Then the next question, which is probably the most important question in this whole process. Okay, who can I look to for support? Now, in our career journey, one of the things that we must recognize here is this: we are not alone in this journey, right? There are people around us that either depend on us or who can help us. So we have to be very clear who these people are. Okay? Who are we doing this for? And if we need help, who can I look to for support? It could be your spouse, it could be your partner, it could be your parents, it could be even your child. All right? Who can I look to for support? Right? And here I'm probably leaning more towards emotional support. Okay? So put this down. Okay? So first set of questions here. Who is important to you? All right? So these are the three questions you ask yourself. Are we okay with this? All right, so very important. This is a starting point for understanding where you want to go to. Okay, first part. All right. Next, what is important to you? What is important to you? Okay, and here I mean I'm referring to basically the type of work, the type of career that you enjoy or you want to have. Right? Now, there are many ways to do this. Okay, if you've been working with a career coach before, right, you've probably gone through many different ways to go about. He's probably going to put you through some assessment tests or some personality tests and all that, which is fine. Okay, what I have here is basically just another way, and I actually enjoy this particular way because it's quite simple and it's actually very easy to do. Okay, I call it the meaningful experience exercise. Now, those of you who've been through my past workshops, you know this very well. The 50% of you who come here for the first time, okay, I ask you to give it a try. Okay, so essentially, this exercise involves what? Involves you filling up 4 categories. Okay, job title, or maybe whether it's part-time or full-time, activities related to the job, what you liked about the job, what you disliked about the job. Okay, so 4 sets of information that you should put down. What's your job? Okay, title or whatever. What are activities related to that? What you liked most about your job? What you dislike most about your job? So you got to balance what you like and what you dislike. All right. So 4 columns. Now, the thing here is this: when you're doing this exercise, bear this in mind. You have to do at least three uh, activities, okay, or 3 jobs or whatever. It could be part-time, it could be full-time. For those of you who maybe this is your first career, right? It could be something you did in your school or voluntary or whatever. All right. Now there is a reason for this. You can have more than 3, but anything less than 3 doesn't make it meaningful. The results doesn't make it meaningful. All right. So make sure you have at least 3. Describe what you like and what you didn't like from doing those activities. Okay, what you like and what you didn't like from doing those activities. Now, why do we do this? Why do we have at least 3, for example? Essentially, we're trying to spot patterns. Spot patterns. Okay. Now, many of us, when we go through our different jobs, our different careers, especially those of us who have worked for a long time, okay, we go through the process. We don't really sit back and really analyze the things that we have gone through, the things that we're spotted and say, actually, I'm not sure about the type of job I really like. But when you reflect back on the things that you have done, right, and then you analyze in this manner what you like and what you dislike, many a time you start to spot a pattern. Okay? So are we okay with this? Are we okay with this? All right. So important to note, when you are doing this activity, the whole idea here is very simple. It's really to help you understand what are your preferences as far as your next job or your current job is concerned. Are we okay with this? Now, we don't have time to actually run through with you, all right? Or allow you to time to actually do this exercise live here. So I suggest you do this as maybe as a homework. Okay, do this at home, right, after the session, whatever, and then you have to think about it. Now, every time I do this activity, okay, there will always be someone or some people who come to me and say they get a revelation after they've done this. They say, oh, I never really thought about that. I never really, detected that actually there are some things that are in common that I like and I don't like. So try this out. Okay, try this out. Any questions on this particular exercise? Right? Again, I urge you to try it out at home after your this particular workshop. Okay. So this is another exercise. All right. So the first one was answering the questions I asked you. Right. This is the next one, trying to get some idea of what are your preferences, what are the things that are important to you in your job or your career. Okay. All right. Okay. So you want to take a screenshot of this, by all means do so. Okay, you can take a screenshot of this. And give you a couple of, maybe about 5 seconds, take a screenshot. It's pretty simple layout. All right. So you can do this. Okay. All right. So now we are done with that. Okay. So those two particular exercises, very simple exercises, basically gives you an idea of already these three elements that you see there, the V, the I, and the P. Okay. Essentially, they are giving you some insights as to what you're interested in, what's important to you, and in some instance, the personality basically is what you like to do, right? So as you can see, that simple exercise, those couple of exercises alone will tell you all this already. Okay, so we come to the S part. Now, strengths. How do we determine strengths? And here really, when I say strengths, I'm talking about things that we are good at and things we like to do. Okay. Some coaches will say that the S is actually skills. They're not wrong, but I have a bigger and more holistic approach or holistic view to what makes us tick. Right? And that's why I call it strengths. Okay. So in other words, what we are good at and what we like to do. And how do we find this out? How do we find this out? Another exercise. Another exercise. Okay. We have 4 boxes here. Okay. You see there on top is the blue column, the blue row is basically competency. I'm not good at this. I am good at this. Then the vertical is preferences. I like to do, I don't like to do. Okay, so you can see four boxes here. So hopefully now you got a piece of paper or maybe a column in your worksheet or whatever in the computer. You are able to draw these 4 boxes. So let's deal with the first one. Let's deal with the first one. The purple color. The purple color. Right? I'm good at this and I like to do this. I'm good at this and I like to do this. Think about it. Think about what are the skills or what are the things that you like to do and you are good at it. Maybe you want to type into the chat box, right? What are the things you like to do and you are good at this? Share with us what are the things that you like to do and you are good at this. Type into the chat box. Essentially, these are called motivated skills. In other words, when you're good at something and you like to do it, essentially you're motivated to keep on using that particular skill or experience, right? That's why we call it motivated skills. Okay, so put down on a piece of paper or whatever, be very clear about this. What am I good at? What I like to do. Okay, right? There's an interesting question from Sean. I thought I was good at it, but after some time I realized I may not be as good as I think. So maybe it's not the purple box, maybe it's another box, right? It can shift over time as well, especially when you place yourself in context on a bigger picture. So don't worry, Sean. Okay? There's always time to learn. All right. Let's talk about the red box. The red box. What is the red box? I'm good at this, but don't like to do it. I'm good at this, but I don't like to do it. Think about it. Do you something at work that you've been asked to do continuously, your bosses, people ask you to do because they think that you're good at it, but you yourself say, oh yeah, I don't like to do, I prefer not to do. In my own past career, I have that skill. Right? My bosses, my colleagues always ask me to manage budgets, big budgets, chase numbers. They saw that I was good at it. But me personally, I really didn't like to do it. So that was my burnout skills. Because the more I use that skill, the more it affects me. Because it makes me feel burnout. Right? What about you? What is your burnout skill? Think about this. What is your burnout skill? No says talking to stakeholders. Yeah, right. Could be, right. Talking to stakeholders could be a burnout skill for you. Right? You're good at it, but you don't like to do it. Okay. Hopefully you are putting all those skills in the particular boxes, because later on it's going to help you. Later on it's going to help you. All right. Let's take a look at the yellow box. I'm not good at this, but I like to do it. So maybe Sean, what your comment there just now, the skills that you say you thought you were good at it, maybe that's in that particular case, it's in the yellow box. Okay, you like to use it, but maybe you found that actually I am not so good at it. Okay, so what do we call this? We call these skills that we can develop. So developmental skills. Okay. So again, this is all your opinion. Maybe you feel that, I'm still not so good at it, so I want to put those skills there. But maybe there are people outside there who thinks that you are very good at it. So it's all relative, right? But what is more important is how you think about it, firstly. Okay? So, what are your developmental skills? Put it. Okay. For me personally, my developmental skills when I started on this journey of doing online webinars, right? I started doing this online webinar, this type of format, for actually almost 5 years now. Okay, even before COVID, right? But in the last over a year ago, I started to change my style because I noticed that many people are so used to doing online webinars that I felt I needed to change my style, right? So I like to do it, but I wasn't very sure how to go about improving. So I had to learn. Hence, you see the format that is I'm doing now, okay, where I appear and all that. So I learned. Okay, so that was my developmental skill. So what is your developmental skill? All right. So you have motivator skill, you have burnout skill, you have developmental skill, right? So all these you probably should be able to identify pretty easily based on your own work experience. Am I right? Okay, you should be easily be able to identify. All right, so the last box. What's in the last box? I'm not good at this. I do not like to do this. Hopefully, there's not too many of that type of skills in there. All right, so this is what we call irrelevant skills because you don't like to do it and you're not good at this. Now, what happens if at work you are asked to do a lot of stuff in there, in that particular blue box? These are the skills that you are not good at and you don't like to do, but a lot of people ask you to do. How does it make you feel? How does it make you feel? Right? So think about all this. Okay? So I hope that over the last 5 minutes that I sort of shared this with you, you are putting all your relevant skills and experiences in all the four boxes, because that's going to give you an idea of how you're going to present yourself to the world. Okay? Because at the end of the day, in every job, in every career, it is not possible for you to use something that is use all well, let me put this way. Your job cannot, the ideal job doesn't exist where you use 100% of the time only motivated skills. you no job exists. Okay, there will be some times where you may use elements of burnout skills, and sometimes you may use element skills that are in the blue box itself. Right? So for example, myself, my career as a private practitioner, as a career coach, I'm have to use a lot of my burnout skills because I have to go out, chase numbers, but these are for me, right? But I'm so fortunate that what I'm doing now, a lot of the time is in the motivated skills box. Okay, so you have to make a choice. When you choose a career, okay, can you most of the time in that career use skills that you want to do and what you like to do? Okay, what you're good at. Okay, there may be some that in developmental, okay, you can use that. All right, so that is a decision you have to make. I cannot tell you, oh, if that job or that career is 50% this, 50% that, don't take it. No, it's up to you. All right, so now that you have put your skills and experiences in the different categories, right, what does this mean? This basically means that now you have an idea of your strengths. Okay, sometimes your strengths you think that may be in the motivated skills box. Yeah, it could be, but in different situations your strength could also be in the developmental box, developmental skills box. Why? Because it gives you motivation to grow, it gives you a push to progress. Okay, and that could be presented as a strength as well, because it reveals ambition, it reveals desire. Okay, right, so you have the four categories. So what does this mean then? What does this mean? Once you know your strengths, then you have to combine everything together. So now your VIPS, you've gone through the exercises to find out your VIPS. Now you have to put all those things together, all those things together, and try and identify what is your problem solving skill. Now, this is your superpower. I always tell my clients, once you can identify your problem solving skills, it becomes your superpower. Why do I call it your superpower? Because once you know what your problem solving skills are, it becomes your identity, it becomes your personal brand. Just imagine this. If someone tells me that, oh, I know Ting Ting can do this, I know Ting Ting can help me solve this problem, right? Imagine opportunities will come your way if a company says, oh, I have this problem, who can I look for? Oh, I know Ting Ting can help me. All right, so you have to have a clear understanding of what the problems you can solve. Now, the other big component of knowing what problems you can solve is also allowing you to then go and find out which companies, which organizations has those problems that you can solve. I want to let that sink in for a while. Okay? Once you know what problems you can solve, you can then go out and search for companies who have those problems. And you can then contact them, or you can present yourself to them and say, hey, Mr. Company, I know how to solve your problem because I've done this before, I'm good at it. Think about this. It's a very powerful way of approaching the labor market, the work, going out and looking for a job. Okay? So, how do we then identify what our superpower is? How do we identify what our superpower is? Okay. First step. First step. We all know this. We all know what we are good at, what are the skills and experiences and all that. We've gone through the exercise just now. That was one, that type of exercise can help you, right? Where the four boxes are. All right? We need to know what are the problems we can solve, right? And then how do we solve these problems? How do we solve these problems? So, three components, three pieces of information we need to know. All right. So, how do we then generate those pieces of information? So I'm going to give you a little simple framework, right, that allows you to dig those, extract those from your own inner self. Okay. So again, maybe you can take a piece of paper or whatever, try and capture this. Try and capture this. All right. Let's say you have these skills and experiences. You have extensive people management experience and a good track record of building effective teams. So I'm sure some of you would have that. Okay. What problems can you solve with that experience? Can you type into the chat box if you have extensive people management experience and successful team building? What problems can you solve? What problems can you solve? Dennis asked a good question. How would you know the issue when you have not been hired by the company? This is where you have to do your legwork, which I'm going to explain later on. Let me come to that. All right. Okay. So Gary says low morale, high staff turnover. June says resolving conflict. Interesting. Anybody else? Resolving conflict, is it an issue, a problem, or is it a process? Analytical, is it an issue or is it the process? Is it a problem or is it a process? Remember, I separate three. Yeah, poor performance is a problem, correct? Right? Poor performance is a problem. Any other problems that good people management skills and team building would solve? Workplace bullying. Okay, yeah, that could be a problem. You're right. Okay, very good. Right. So important here, we have to separate problems from the process. Okay, so what are the problems that we can solve? Some examples here could be high staff turnover, low staff morale, okay, underperforming team. Okay? So these are problems that a company will face. Then you ask yourself, then if you find a company that says, oh, that has these problems, then you tell them, I have extensive management and skills and a good track record of building effective teams. Then they say, oh, okay, how do you do this? Then you say, how I solve the problem. How I solve the problem could be what? I build good team environment. I mentor less experienced colleagues. I provide clear direction. Can you see the difference now? Okay, because many people, when they go through this exercise, they confuse the yellow box and the green box. Okay, we have to understand the yellow box, those items there are examples of problems. You can use that information. Once you know that you can solve that problem, you look for companies that has high staff turnover. You look for companies that have underperforming teams. You look for companies that have low staff morale. Right? Then when you approach those companies, then you tell them, I can solve those problems by doing those things in the green box. You see the top pattern here? You see the top pattern here? So you have to be very clear about what is in the yellow box. Okay, let's take another example. You have these skills and experiences. In-depth experience in launching new products and expanding into new markets. That is your superpower. What problems can you solve? What problems can you solve? Can you type into the chat box? If you have good marketing skills, what problems can you solve? Anyone? What problems can you solve? Okay, Lionel says new marketplace, creating more awareness. Creating more awareness, is it a problem or is it the way you solve the problem? Think about it. Okay, so we talk about problem. What is a problem? So Lionel, maybe the problem here is that you have a limited presence in new markets. Okay. All right. So the other problem is what? You have limited presence in regional markets. Okay. So problem could be you have low market share because the market is very competitive. right? Branding the company is what? It's not a problem, right? It is a process. So maybe the problem here is low market share or low brand awareness. All right. So you need to understand what the problem is. Okay. So here could be some examples of problems you solve. No or limited international presence, low market share. They have limited marketing budget. Those are problems. How do you solve the problems? How do you solve the problems? You have good insights in consumer purchasing habits. You have extensive marketing network. You have a very good way of controlling the budget, the marketing budget. Okay, so good. Those are some of the ways to do it. Right. So again, I want to emphasize this. In-depth knowledge, right, of the things in the yellow box is very important. Now, there was a question here, is that how do we find out the what are the things in the yellow box? I'm going to touch on that in a little while, all right? But just bear this in mind first. Let's start from yourself first. Start from yourself first. Don't worry about how to find that information in other in companies first. Start with yourself. Get an understanding of what you can do, what problems you can solve in the yellow box. All right. Okay. I want you to give it a try. All right. Let's take 5 minutes. Let's take 5 minutes, and I'd like you to give it a try and do this exercise. Maybe you just do one of your experience or skills and go through the flow. Right? Put something in the blue box, something in the yellow box, and something in the green box. Okay? So let's give it a try for 5 minutes. All right, and then we come back, and then I'll see if I can answer those questions that I saw in the chat box itself. Okay, I'll see you in a little while.
A few moments later.
Okay, I see there are some people put down comments, but they're having some difficulties identifying the items in the blue box. In other words, your skills and experiences. Couple of ways to do this. Okay, one obviously is to go through the exercises in the 4 boxes that I mentioned: motivated skills, developmental skills, burnout skills, and the irrelevant skills. Spend some time putting those things there. Okay, that might give you a better insight. So that's one way, right? So go through the exercise, right? Another way to do this, or maybe you can do this in at the same time, complementary way, is to actually ask your friends, your colleagues, what are the things that they come to you for help with? Okay, why do they ask Ting Ting? What are the things they ask Ting Ting to help? What are the things they ask Sean to help? Okay, so think about this in 2 ways. Okay, I saw someone shared this. Okay, maybe I will share this as well. Thank you so much, Sean. This was a little thing from my old slides. So CS has shared that. Okay, it's the same thing. All right, it's basically the 3 boxes that I mentioned there. Okay, it's the 3 boxes that I mentioned there. So you can use that as well. Oh, by the way, just for information, anything that's typed into the chat box later on at the end when you leave this session, you actually save the chat. Okay, so don't worry about it. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so hopefully that helps you get some better idea of what you can put into the blue box. All right, so one is to go through the exercises of the 4 boxes. All right, sit down, spend some time on that. That gives you some idea about that. Or you just ask your colleagues and friends. Okay, what are the things that they ask you for help with? Because once they every time they come to you with something, it must be that they know that you can help them with something. Okay, so think about that. All right, so try that. Okay, so hopefully that works for you. All right, essentially you just need to spend a bit of time sitting down. It may not be straight off the cuff that you can think of this. Some people may need a bit of time, so those 2 ways I suggested could probably help you. Is that okay? All right, so let's think about this now. So the reason why, again, I want to emphasize why this is so important. is because of this. Once you know what your problem solving skills are, you know how you can use your skills and experience to solve problems. And then in the process of solving problems, you can tell people how you do it. All right. So again, I want to emphasize, okay, using it's not enough to know what you are good at, what skills you have. You need to know how you apply those skills and experiences to help other people solve their problem. Okay? And how do you solve it are all the things that we mentioned in the green box, right? Mentoring, building team environment, controlling budgets. Those are the processes. Okay? So once you know what your problem solving areas are, right? You present yourself to the world. You can solve this, you can do that, you can help people with doing this, right? You are going to attract a lot of opportunities. Right? Later I'm going to talk about personal branding. I'm going to give a brief insight to personal branding so we can, those of you who are eager to know that, hold your horses first. Okay? You attract opportunities, that's one. And then later I'm going to share with you a little bit more on how you can then go out and identify which companies have got those problems that you can help them with. Okay? So it is worthwhile to go through this little exercise. And I urge you to sit down, spend some time on it. Right? Those of you who have initial difficulty about trying to identify what your skills and experiences are, maybe you are stuck. I know you have. Maybe you just stuck, or maybe you just, I don't know, maybe you underestimate yourself. Okay, you need to break out of that mold. But maybe one of the things is doing those 4 boxes that I mentioned, or talking to your colleagues and friends, asking them, why do you come to me? What help do I have? What help have I given you in the past? That might give you an idea. Are we okay with this? All right. We all have self-doubts, Ting Ting. Okay. Many of us have self-doubt, right? I guess the thing here is really going through the process of trying to understand what we are good at. So hopefully those particular activities will help you as well. All right. Okay. We spent the last, maybe about 30 minutes or so talking about this particular portion, VIPS, right? Where we identified, right, what is important to us, right? What our strengths, and then how we can become problem solvers. Okay? Now, what does it achieve at the end? What does knowing all of this achieve at the end? Right? Essentially, what it achieves here is that it gives us more inner self-confidence. Right? So those of you who have got self-doubt, please spend a little bit more time in this particular area itself. All right? Get to know what you are good at. And this, by getting to know what you're good at, bouncing off your friends, your family, your colleagues, or whatever, all right, it will give you more confidence to go out and present yourself to the marketplace. Is that all right? Okay. So we come to the stage where we got the Q&A here. We got the Q&A. All right. So before we go on to the action, there are a couple of things that we still need to do. So we need to talk about options. It is now 3:04. I'll tell you what, why don't I go through this particular exercise options first, then we take a break. Is that all right? All right, because I think, I want to maintain the momentum. There are a lot of questions here, and I think the momentum is there. Is that all right? Okay, so let me talk about the options first, and then we take a short break. Okay? All right, in this portion, these are the things that we're going to talk about. These are the things we're going to talk about. All right? And those things that we're going to talk about there, all right, a lot of it is going to be related to what we did in the previous section on knowing yourself. Okay, so that is very important. So they're all related. So please don't sort of think that they're all separate. It's all linked together. Okay, and the elements that you need to look at when you're exploring options are essentially things like, what's the potential of the career or job? What is the nature of the job or work? All right. What is the environment going to be like? And, how are we going to get paid? Whether the compensation is what we are looking for, what we are wanting. Okay. So it's not enough to say, I want to have high pay as possible. right? We have to sort of sit down and really dig deeper into this. Okay, so those are the areas that we should be looking at in terms of options. Now, before we even talk about all these things, first thing we have to understand is this. Remember, you gave just now a whole list of um, career issues that you are currently facing now. You gave a whole list of them, right? So some says they have difficulty finding a job. Some say, yeah, I'm not happy with work. Okay. The first thing I would ask you, if you were my client with those issues on the table, okay, and here you have to ask yourself now, if you are doing this for yourself, what is the real issue here? What is the real issue here? In other words, we have to differentiate between symptom and the cause. Symptom and cause. Okay? Think about this. I'm going to give you an example. So let's say, and I saw some comments there that says, I'm unhappy with work. So if you approach a coach, you say unhappy with work, the coach is going to ask you questions. Okay, so similarly, if you feel unhappy and you are trying to identify why are you unhappy, what is the cause of your unhappiness? Is it I don't like my boss, or my boss don't like me? I can't get along with my colleagues, maybe, right? Is it because I have a very heavy workload? Is it because I'm not getting promoted? Okay. I had a client last time. She was a teacher, right? And she wanted to quit her job. Why? She said, oh, heavy workload. Then I dug deeper. It is actually not the heavy workload. It is the fact that she has limited time to spend with a very young child. Okay? She's actually quite happy with the nature of the work, but it's just that the work is taking time away from her child. Right? So then we talk through, then how can we solve this? Have you talked to your boss? Have you looked at how you can decrease your workload? Have you looked at other ways? All right. So that is what I mean by going through what's a symptom, what is the cause. Okay. And then maybe you'll find out, because of all the problems, all the cause is leading to this problem that you are, for example, in this case, getting poor performance rating. That's why you feel that, I'm not being valued at my workplace. Okay. So I saw a lot of comments in the chat box about pay, about superior never listening to you, politics in the company. Okay. What is the real reason? For example, why is the boss not listening to the staff? What is the real reason? Is it because he doesn't have time? Or is it because he just can't be bothered? Or is it just because he doesn't believe you? All right. Politics in the company. So again, is this something that you can control? Right. And then maybe this leads on to a particular portion I have later on, which how you choose the right environment. Okay, I'll come to that. All right. So this is an important process. Think about how you differentiate. What is the real reason behind your issue? What is the real reason behind your issue? Okay, because sometimes when you identify that, it can lead you down a different path. Right. So recently, for example, I had someone who was very unhappy at work. Okay. She wanted to leave, but she was thinking, should I leave or should I stay? Okay. So I asked her a few questions. If you are in this situation, maybe you can try out your hand at this question as well, these questions as well. So one set of questions could be, what are your priorities right now? Both work and non-work. Okay. How do these priorities fit into your current job? Can leaving your current job improve these priorities? So that's one set of questions. So next set of questions. What is the worst case scenario if you stayed on or if you left your job? Okay. Is that worst case scenario acceptable to you? If it's not acceptable, then what needs to happen to make it acceptable to you? And what do you need to do to make it acceptable? Okay. What are your options if you stay? List down those options and rank them and see if any what is the probability of those options happening. What company should you go for if you were to leave? And I'll address that in a little while. Okay. And then shortlist these companies and think about how you can fit into those companies. And that's an exercise I'll deal with in the next few slides. Okay. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, ask yourself that, especially if you are unhappy at work, ask yourself these questions as a starting point. Answering these questions may lead down more questions to ask yourself, all right? But this is a very good starting point. So take a screenshot here. Okay. Are we okay? Next one. What happens if you are thinking, what is my ideal work environment? What is my ideal work environment? So this is applying to those who are looking for unemployed, looking for a job. But at the same time, those of you who are unhappy in your job, you want to look for something new. But you have to be very clear about what type of environment that you are looking at. Okay. So here you're really looking at what factors are important to you. We did a little bit of exercise just now from the meaningful experiences. All right. So that will give you a better idea. So that will give you a better clarity on how you rank these. Okay. So there are a few elements here. So I'm going to list this all very quickly, yeah, so that you can see this. All right. So job challenge and learning opportunities. All right. Autonomy. Okay. Satisfaction, whether it's satisfaction about your compensation, progression, or whatever. Culture, support from your colleagues, support from your boss, work-life fit. So those are the factors, right? So rank these factors. If you think culture is important, I mean, definition of all these things is up to you. You define it, right? What do we mean by culture? You define what you mean by culture. What is important to you? Okay, so rank these. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, rank these. Which is most important to you? Now that's not the end. You have some more things related to this. You have to ask yourself. So once you have ranked these, okay, you have to further ask yourself. Let me just go outside. You have to further ask yourself some more questions. This is all the process of self-coaching. You ask yourself a lot of questions. Okay, for each of these items here. Okay, so you got job challenge. Let's take the idea of job challenge and learning opportunities. For each of this item, okay, you ask yourself this: what is the factor most important for job challenge and learning opportunities? What do we mean by job challenge? Do you want it to be more challenging or you want to be less challenging? You want to have more learning opportunities, and what type of learning opportunities? Okay, the learning opportunities, does it mean you want to have more courses during your work hours or outside of work hours? Right? Job challenge, does it mean you are wanting to go for participate in more projects, or you want to be challenged by doing new things, or being asked to do different things, right, instead of the same old thing? Okay, list this down. Okay, the next question, right, same question, same component, job challenge and learning opportunities. How will you know when you have experienced this? In other words, for example, if you listed down and saying that one of the things that I really value in this category of job challenge and learning opportunities is that I want to have the opportunity to do many new things. Then you ask yourself, how will I know when I have got this? Then you can tell yourself, oh, maybe you say that every month I'm participating in a new project, for example, right? Be very clear, list this down. Or maybe you say every month I can sign up a new course to learn something, right? Or I am part of a mentoring team where I'm attached to a very experienced boss. Okay, list this down. How will you know when you experience this? Okay. Where will you get more information about this component? same thing again, under job challenge and learning opportunities. Where can you get more information about this? Okay, whether is it inside the company, where can you get more information about this inside the company, or in general outside, let's say in the industry itself, where can you get more information about where to learn about these courses, what type of career track will allow me to become more challenged in the job. Okay, next question, and this will be related to my next slide. If you met someone in your target company, I'll talk a little bit about what I mean by target company later on. Okay, if you met someone, what would you ask to get more insight into this component, job challenge and learning opportunities? What would you ask them? Okay, let's say Siu Hock met up with Fong Yan, and Fong Yan is working in a company that he likes, and what question would Siu Hock ask Fong Yan in terms of the company, whether it's challenging or whether there's learning opportunities? Okay, so for each of the components in the yellow box, you ask the questions in the blue box. Okay, so this is your way of finding out what's your ideal work environment. Okay, there's a lot of work to do. No, this is not a passive session. Okay, so you have to do the legwork because you're coaching yourself. Okay, I saw a couple of questions. Can culture support from colleague and supervisor same ranking? Well, I guess you can, but I think it's better if you try and, because rank, there always have to be one is more important than the other. Okay, then another question would be, I realize that people and culture are the same and linked, which is very important to help us stay on the job and not because of somebody. I'm not sure what the question is. As I realize people and culture are the same and linked, which very important to help us say. Well, if you think they're very important, I guess, by all means, then you must be very specific about what aspects are important, because people and culture can be very broad. So what aspect of the people and culture that's important to you? Okay, so maybe I share this question that came up in the chat. All right, so this one here. Most bosses actually like workaholic style candidates. I cannot say I just want to be a happy employer, got fair experience before, but we prefer work and life balance for family and health questions. Should we tell boss in the interview we are kind of workaholic in order to secure a job first? If later the boss asks me to do overtime work, what can I tell him? All right, good question. Now this question is relating to is when you are at the interview stage. What I'm relating to here now is a stage where you're trying to identify what is the right environment for you first. It is self-knowledge. What is the right environment for you? Okay, so later on when we talk about the interview stage, I'm going to talk about that in the action planning. Okay, but the short answer to this here is this. Maybe you should even avoid reaching that situation. Okay, maybe you should then spend more time trying to find the company that's right for you first. Okay, and then, so I'm going to talk about the target company, how we find a target company in a while. All right, so there's another question. I think it's more related to the boss, whether you have to find a toxic boss or not. Again, how we find a toxic boss, you have to do your research. But here we're talking about what is your ideal environment first. Okay, again, here we're talking about what is your ideal environment. How we find this, I'm going to address that in a little while. Okay, so let's move on very quickly. I'm conscious of time here, so let's move on very quickly. All right, the next portion I'm going to share with you is this little video called Informational Interviews. Some of you may have seen this. Half of you who have not been to my session will not have seen it. So I'm going to share this with you. As you watch this video, very short video, please take note of what the key points are. And then we're going to discuss the key points. Okay? See you now.
An informational interview is an amazingly powerful tool. It can help you learn about different types of work you're interested in. And by providing inside perspective, it may even connect you to opportunities you couldn't see from the outside. So let's take a look at what informational interviewing is all about. An informational interview is not a job interview, and it's not a tricky play to get a job. If you're asking for a job and they do have one, then they'll likely start judging whether you're a good fit. And if they don't have one, then that conversation ends there. The key to a successful informational interview is curiosity. With sincere curiosity and good questions about your interviewee's life and experience, you gain insights into their successes and failures, how they got where they are, and what's important to them. Your curiosity will lead to an authentically engaged conversation, which also opens the door for the interviewee to get curious about you. The professional you're speaking with might say something like, "Wow, you're asking some really good questions." And in that transition, informational interviewing becomes even more valuable for someone looking for work. Informational interviews give you an opportunity to see what kinds of work resonate with you and help you determine what communities you would like to be a part of. In a good informational interview, the professional you speak with gets a lot out of the conversation too. They get to discuss their life and their work with someone who's curious about their experience and values their expertise. Plus, they get the pleasure of talking with someone who's genuinely interested in what they do. How do you do it well? Here are 5 tips to get you started. First, do your homework. Take some time to research LinkedIn or other online platforms to learn about the professional you're interviewing. Consider what questions you have about their life and work. The second tip is to try to meet in person. On the phone is okay, but face-to-face is best. 3, always try to buy the coffee or lunch. Your interviewee is giving you their time. Paying is a good way of showing your appreciation and beginning to create a connection. 4, ask your interviewee who else they recommend you talk with. If the interview has gone well, they may be willing to connect you to other professionals you can learn from and who might have opportunities for you. Finally, tip number 5. After the interview, send a thank you. Email is okay, but a handwritten note is even better. And if they asked you to keep them posted on your progress, do so.
Okay. That gives you a really good overview of what informational interview is all about. Okay, I don't have time to actually dig into how you do it and the preparations. I have done this in other workshops before, so later I'm going to give you an idea as how to access the information, right? But suffice to say, some broad points about informational interview, right, is this. It's basically an informal meeting with another person who is in the work organization that you are very interested in joining. Okay? And down there, you are just basically finding out if the company or the industry aligns with what's important for you. Aligns with what's important for you. Okay? And lastly, but I think this is the most important, informational interview is also a way to actually build your network. Okay? Where the person that you met up, and if you get a relationship with that person, a connection with that person becomes your supporter when opportunities come, opportunities that are not advertised. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the hidden job market in a while. Okay, now a lot of information out there, right? Like later on, if you want to attend some of my past workshops, the videos and all there is, but I also give you a link as to how you can attend my future workshops on this. But I'm going to give you a couple of links here where they have good information about informational interviews. So let me put this in the chat box so that you all can refer to this. So there's one already in the chat box. Then there's the other one here. Let me just copy this. Oh, yeah. See, when my eyesight is bad, they're difficult to do. Okay. Okay. So the other link is here. Okay. So 2 articles about information interview which I found very useful. You can take a look at that. Okay. So take a look at that. Very worthwhile exercise to do. All right. Now we come to this portion about finding the right organization. Now, I think I want to take a 5 minute break because if I go on for this, it's going to take another 15 minutes. So I think we don't have time. So let's take a short 5 minute break, right? Then we come back and talk about how we find out which organizations we should have. Is that okay? Right? So I see you guys back here in 5 minutes. Okay?
A few moments later.
Okay. Hope you had a good stretch break because now we are coming into this portion which I think many of you are very interested in is to how we find what organizations we should be aiming for. Okay, so this portion is probably will be of interest to many of you. Okay, so first thing I want to make you understand here is this: the work that you did just now about problem solving, right, is there. You need to know that. Okay, and this falls into this category of how you can help that company. Okay, so bear this in mind. You no point starting on finding out the right company if you don't know what problems or how you can help them. So you need to do the exercise first. All right. So very simple. Okay, process. First of all, right, you go and try and identify the companies. You try and ask why this company excites you and then how it relates to you. Then you present yourself as to how you can help the company. So let me run through step by step how this is done. Okay. All right. So the first one is this. Many of us would have some idea of what company we want to go for. Whether it's through word of mouth, whether it's through your own impressions of the company, or maybe you did some legwork, you did some research, and you shortlist those companies. Many of you have done so. Okay? So put those companies down. Now, for each of those companies, you must ask why the other questions. Okay. Now, another way to get information about the company is also to talk to your network. Okay. So here, the premise here is this: you need to do your research. You need to do your research. You cannot be passive anymore and just sit there and think everything will come to you. No more already. So those of you who are thinking in that way, please cut off that type of thinking. It's not relevant anymore. Okay, you have to be active. You have to go out and search. Okay, right. So in my past workshops, I will get people to give me an idea of what companies they want to go for. So maybe for the sake of time, I won't do this now. All right. So let's take the case of maybe we identify, I don't know. Everybody seems to like Google. Every time I ask this question, they always like to like Google or Facebook or whatever. So let's take the tech company. Let's take Google and say, okay, let's use Google as a company that you would like to work for as an example. Okay, so then the question you ask yourself, if you are choosing Google, you ask yourself, why does this company excite me? Is it because I'm passionate about the industry that the Google is operating in? Is it because I'm very interested in the products that Google sells? Or is it because I'm very interested in coding and developing software for Google? Okay, so this is something that you have to ask yourself. Why does this company excite me? Why am I passionate about it? Is it because of my interest in the area that they're operating in? Okay, so that was one. How does it relate to me? How does it relate to me? So remember the exercise you did earlier on about the VIPS, all right? Then you have to ask yourself, okay, does Google have the culture of Google? Does it fit the values that I hold dear to me? All right. Do I have the experience and the skill set that allows me to be part of the Google network? All right. Maybe the way I present myself in a personal brand. I'll talk about personal branding later on, but the way my personal brand, I want my personal brand to be known, it sort of fits in with the branding of Google. I'm very high tech, I'm very advanced, I'm very into cloud networking and that sort of thing. Okay. Or maybe I know a lot of people in Google or in the industry. Okay. So ultimately the question you ask yourself is, why would I fit into this company, Google? Why would I fit into this company, Google? Now, again, here, you have to do the research. Okay, so again, it is not about being passive. You have to go out, whether it's through online research. The best one is really to talk to people who know the company, whether they're working in the company, they're working for the company, or working with the company, or maybe they are in competition with the company. Okay, so you have to do the legwork. Then the last, but by no means the least, but it's actually the most important aspect is that, all right, so you've answered all this, why the company excites me, how does it relate to me, then now you think about it. How can I help Google? What problems can I solve for Google? All right, think about this. If you come across, you like Google and all that, you talk about it, but then you think, actually I don't know how to help Google. I got no. Then if that's the case, then is Google the right company for you? Because what? What is the reason for Google to hire you if you have nothing to help them with, nothing to that you can help them with? Okay, I'm going to use an example which I shared with my past participants. Ex-client who was in the logistics and distribution area in Singapore, right? He heard that Amazon was coming into town. That was a few years ago. He did some research and he knows that Amazon wanted to set up a regional HQ in Singapore, right? And he's very passionate, interested in this area of logistics and transportation and all that. Okay. And he so went through the exercise and he said, oh, Amazon, I have the experience. Amazon is a very distribution specific and logistical thing, which is fits what I want to be known for, my personal brand. Okay. I know a lot of people in the industry that will potentially work with Amazon connection. Okay. How can I help Amazon? He thought about it and said, I can help them set up the distribution network here in Singapore and Southeast Asia. Right? In the end, he got the job because he presented himself that way. Okay? So we have to think about it in this way as well. Right? If you want to take a screenshot of this, by all means do so. Right? But one thing I need to emphasize to everyone here is this. Okay, all those questions that were asked about how do I find out about culture, how do I find out what problems they have and all that, you have to do the legwork. You have to go out and talk to the people, do your research, talk to their competitors, everything. You have to do that. Okay, it's not going to be given to you. It's not, nobody's going to spoon feed you all this information. You have to go and look for it. The informational interview is a very good way of finding those things. Okay, so you're taking a screenshot here. Hopefully I've answered with this the questions about where do I find all the information, how do I find the information, all the questions related to that. Huh? Okay, are we okay with this? All right. Okay, so again, identify the companies. How many companies? All right, the rough rule of thumb here is that no more than 10 companies, because any more than 10 companies becomes a bit difficult for you to be very focused, because this section is about focus, right? Okay, so a few companies, then you try and spend enough time and effort to try and find out about the companies, how you can help the companies. Then you talk about how you can conduct informational interviews to find out more information and connect up with people in the company. Okay, network building, I'm going to talk about this in the action part itself. Okay, all right. So this particular portion about exploring options, we discuss all these things that you see up there. All right. What is important here, the whole idea here is really to make sure you come up with a list of options, come up with a list of possibilities, and get the right information so that you can make the right decision. That is the whole idea in this particular category. You create a list of options, then get enough information to allow you to make the right decision as best as possible. Okay, the good coach will do that with you. Okay, he will ask you, all right, Sim Wee Ming, okay, what are your options on the table? No, why do you do this? Is it possible? Do that, do that, do that. Right? Based on all that option, which one do you think fits you best? Right? Make the decision. Okay, so that is the focus for this particular category on exploring options. any questions. Okay, focus. Here we are talking about goal setting, prioritizing, decision making. Okay, this is making sure that we are thinking in the right direction. How are we going to get what we want? All right. So, really, it is about what? It is about setting a goal, setting an objective, setting a target. Okay. How do we do this? How do we identify what we want? Well, the first thing you have to ask yourself is this: what do I want? What do I want? What do I want to achieve my career? What do I want to get? What job do I want? What career do I want? You have to ask yourself that. Okay. How you arrive at this could be a result of all the things that you did in the first portion about knowing yourself, knowing the right organization. Okay. When do I want this to happen? Is it in 1 year's time? Is it in 6 months' time? Whatever. The time frame is up to you to determine. But one thing I must say to you is this. Okay. The time frame you might gotta make it so that you can achieve it. Don't give yourself an unreasonable time frame and say ASAP. Yeah? That doesn't help you. Okay? Give a reasonable time frame. Last question is what? How do I make this happen? How do I make this happen? Really, sometimes how I make this happen. A lot of the time when you are trying to motivate yourself, all right, to achieve a goal. Sometimes it's about visualizing how you would feel, how you would look when you have reached that goal. Self-visualizing. Okay? Think about, if I reach that goal, this is what I'll be doing. This is how every day what I'll be doing, this is how I'll be feeling. That gives you the motivation. Sean asked a question, what is a reasonable time frame? It's up to you. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. Okay? But what I must say here is this: shouldn't say that I want to achieve this tomorrow. Is tomorrow a reasonable time frame? Unlikely, especially if you got a big goal. Right? Is ASAP a reasonable time frame? No, because you got no end part in mind. You have no frame to work on. Okay, so you have to task yourself and say, okay, what is the decision time frame? I'm going to give you an example in a little while. Okay. Now, how then do I achieve the goals? How do I achieve the goals? Well, if you look at it, essentially there are 4 components that you need to have. You need to know your current state, what you're currently doing. You need to know your desired state, in other words, what you're trying to achieve. Okay. Then you try and find out what is the gap, what needs to be done, and then create an action plan to achieve that. Okay. So the first things first, right? What is the first bit of information you need to determine here? Can you type into the chat box, what is the first bit of information in that yellow box that you need to determine in order to set up the activity? Anyone? You type into the chat box, what is the first bit of information you need to have? Yeah, JG said it. Your desired state. You need to know where you want to go aim for. You need to know where you want to aim for. Okay, so that is the first thing you need to do. So let's say now, okay, so let me put myself out. This will be your framework for goal setting and action planning. So your desired state will be your long-term goal. Okay, you need to specify when you want to do this. All the other boxes here essentially are your short-term goals. By achieving your short-term goals, it will achieve your long-term goal. Okay. The question from Chong Fei Yan is, what is a skill set that you are lacking? That's how you determine what's lacking. Okay. I'll go through this bit by bit. All right. So let's take an example here. Let's say you want to go into marketing. You want to do a marketing career in FMCG, and let's say it's in 2 years' time, or maybe 1 year. Let's do 1 or 2 years, right? For the sake of argument, let's say 2 years here. So that's a long-term goal, right? So how do you achieve that long-term goal? Maybe one thing you do is maybe connect up with 8 key FMCG is fast moving consumer goods. FMCG marketeers over the next 3 months. That could be one short-term goal. I want to connect up with these people over the next 3 months. Okay. How do I do this? What are the activities? I find out from my network, all right, who these people are, all right, by when, okay. I research and connect on LinkedIn by this particular day. Then I go out and conduct 5 informational interviews by this date. Right, so those are activities. Again, very specific, very specific. Next short-term goal. I want to shortlist 8 target companies within 2 weeks. Who are the target companies? Okay, how do I do this? Maybe I find out from my network what are the good FMCG companies to work for, and then I try and do this by September, October. Right? I compile my company bucket list, so that chart just now about a target company, that's called a company bucket list. Okay, compile that whole thing. That means I do a lot of research. Okay, then from there I conduct some more informational interviews for people who are either connected to the company or related to the company. So here you see there are 2 examples of information interviews. One is to find out about FMCG marketing in general. Then another set of interviews, information interviews, is to find out specifically about the company, more insights about the company. Okay, so that's another short-term goal. Another short-term goal, I want to go through professional training in marketing, and I want to do this within 12 months or by 12 months. How do I do this? I need to then go out and identify what are the relevant courses that I can attend by this period. Okay, I apply for this and I attend before this date. Okay, so very, very specific. Very, very specific. So here, coming back to the question, what is a skill set you are lacking? If you are wanting to join FMCG marketing, right, within a certain period, you identify that you need to know what is it all about. You need to identify what companies you want to go for. You need to identify and get trained in the skill set. That is how you analyze it. Okay, that is how you analyze it. Now, after doing all this, what happens if there are some things you don't know how to do? You list down all those activities there, but there are some things that you just don't know how to do. So, are you stuck? Are you giving up? No, right? Because this is something you are self-coaching. So, you need to then identify what resources you need to help you achieve those short-term goals or do those activities. Okay, so for example, if let's say one of the things that you don't know how to do is identify relevant courses, marketing courses, who can help you? Maybe the people who are currently professional marketeers, they can suggest courses for you, right? Or maybe you have a family member or a friend who's attended a past course before, they can help you. So put down who can help you, guide you. Or maybe it's going for another career coach, right? That career coach can help you, right? So be very specific and identify that. Okay? Now, this is not the end of the whole process, because you do a lot of these things. Sometimes things change, right? Time, 12 months, 2 years, 1 month, 12 months and 24 months is actually not a short time. A lot of things can change. So you really need to make sure that you are always testing reality. What I mean by testing reality is this, right? After every activity, after every sub-goal or short-term goal you achieve, you see, is it still relevant or not? Is it still relevant to help you achieve your long-term goal? Or maybe your long-term goal time frame has changed, right? Because of new things has happened. For example, nobody anticipated COVID happening. So many companies, many people had to change their long-term goals or activities to cope with the introduction of something that's so disruptive. So we have to be able to do that as well in terms of goal setting. Okay? So hopefully that answers the questions that you have asked there just now. All right. We have talked about getting focused. All right. So here the whole idea is very simple. You want to be prepared. to move to the next step. Preparation is the key word here. Preparation is the key word here. Before I go on to the last part, which is the action part, okay? Any questions? Okay, here, those are the things I'm going to talk about. Personal branding, networking, information. I feel I actually talked about it already, right? Job search, gaining experience, and all that. Now, each component itself is worthy of a separate workshop. All right, so I cannot go into detail but I'm going to give you links or give you access to information that will help you achieve those things. Okay, so let's talk about the first thing here. The first concept here is this: when we're looking for jobs, essentially, most of us, I'm sure most of you here, right, are focused on jobs that are out in the open market. What I mean by open market, basically jobs that are advertised. Jobs that are advertised. Okay? You see that. All right. Now, do you know that jobs that are advertised, or what we call the visible market, is actually only a very small percentage of all the opportunities out there? Very, very small. Okay? These figures were given, I got these figures last year, right? From an article who did some research on this. So 25% job posting advertised, 15% headhunters. So imagine 65%, am I right? 20, 30, 40, 60% of jobs are not advertised, or the headhunters also don't know. Can you imagine? So if you are focused on this particular market only, those that advertise, you must have the following criteria. You must fulfill the following criteria. Okay? Only candidates, successful candidates, or people who are successful in going after jobs in this area, right, will be people who have the relevant skills and experience, relevant career history, your skills are in demand, and then your track record is very recent. Think about this, huh? If you have all these criteria, you stand a very good chance of being successful, especially if you fulfill more than 70% of the criteria that they advertise for or they're asking for. Okay? But then, are there exceptions to this? Of course there are. What happens if you fall into any of these categories here? What happens if you're an older or mature worker? What happens if you want to switch careers? What happens if you are only coming back to the workforce after a long absence? What do? Do you give up? No. But you have to put in a little bit more legwork. You have to go after as primary source of job opportunities. You have to go to another category, which is called the hidden market. The hidden market. All right? And where do we find the hidden market? Where do we find the hidden market? It's basically out there. You just need to dig for it. You just need to look for it. Whether it's through social media, through your network, go to events, put your ears on the ground. Associations, sometimes they advertise for it. Okay, sometimes some people are very successful in contacting employers directly. Okay, informational interviews again, right, gives you an idea of what job opportunities are there in the company or in the industry. Sometimes you work part-time, you get the first insight and you get converted to full-time. Okay, so how do you then get all of this? How do you then get all of this? You have to do the legwork of going out and doing things. Informational interviews, identifying the right target companies, make sure your personal branding is strong enough. I'll talk a bit about that, right? And then make sure that you're very clear about how you help other people. What is your problem solving skills? Okay? All these things are linked together. Right? So if you are falling into any of these categories, you need to do all this. Now, How you find out the hidden job market, again, very big topic. In fact, I'm going to do this topic on the 9th of March, okay, under WSG. So if you're interested, you can join in that session as well. It's the same time, 2 to 4:30. All right, you can do that. But I think the key thing here that I want to emphasize here is this. All right, problem solving skills are the key focus again. I keep coming back to this. You need to understand what your problem solving skills, because at the end of the day, when you go after job opportunities that are not advertised, it really at the end, it is not about you, no, it is about how you can help them. How you can help them. It's about how you can solve their problems. Okay? And once you know what your problems are, what your problem solving skills are, if you put that as part of your personal brand, you will attract opportunities. You will attract opportunities. All right. Now, I will share with you a recording of a workshop I done on personal branding. Okay, let me share this with you. Oh, hang on. Let me share this with you in the chat box so that you can take a look at it. I will have a future workshop on this, but I think that's probably later on. So let me put this down so that you can take a look at what personal branding is all about. Okay, so that's a recording there. Now, 26 May is my live workshop, but some past workshop videos you can see the link in the chat box itself. Okay, essentially in today's modern world, personal branding, when you're looking at it as from point of view of a job seeker, one primary vehicle is really through social media, and especially LinkedIn. Okay, now I want to point out to you a interesting article which I just came across last week about how AI can help you boost your LinkedIn profile. This is a very interesting one, I thought it would be. So I thought I wanted to share this with you. Okay, so hopefully, I don't know whether you can get into that. Hopefully you can. So how AI can boost your LinkedIn profile. All right, take a look at that. Very interesting. Okay, I don't have time to go into details about LinkedIn itself, but I want to give you a brief overview of the key points here. Right? So the first thing that I need you to understand here is that it doesn't matter if you have very limited LinkedIn connections, because at the end of the day, what matters more is actually your second and third degree connections. In other words, people that your connections know, right? So for example, this article from HBR, okay, basically says that when it comes to finding a new job, weak ties are most useful and the strongest ties are the least. For instance, compared with extremely weak ties with a mutual friend, a new tie with 10 mutual friends nearly doubles the probability of changing jobs. So we are talking about the second and third degree as probably the ones that are most useful to you. Okay? And what are the network building priorities? What are the network building priorities? You got to focus on building relationship, building trust. Okay? You got to focus on getting information about what's out there. What are the hidden opportunities? Right? Make sure whoever you're talking to, whoever you're building a relationship with, they know you. So you got to share information about yourself. When you're connecting up with new people, it's best you connect up with something in common, whether it's another mutual friend, or whether it's through an event or through alumni or whatever. Find something in common. Right? When you are building your network, don't ask for a job. That is the biggest mistake I see a lot of people getting, because it turns people off. Why are you connecting up with me only because you want me to give you a job? Most of the time, people will not accept it. Okay. As in building any relationship, you want to give and take. You want to add value. You want to help them. All right. When you're building a relationship, you must be prepared. Okay. So informational interviews, when you look at the article that I shared with you, all of them will tell you you need to be prepared. Okay, you need to be prepared. Next portion I want to sort of make sure you understand is this. Sometimes people don't like to do this. It's a bit about getting the right experience. because it takes a lot of effort to go out of your way to find opportunities to get the right experience. But it is very, very important, especially if you're going into a new area. Okay, so why do we do this? Because we want to build credibility. We want to tell people we are serious about going into this new area. We are serious about going to this industry or this job. Okay, we want to make sure our reputation is enhanced. So, for example, when I started on this journey 8 years ago about to try and get become a career coach, I had to go on and make sure I do things to tell people and show to people that I'm serious about being a career coach. All right. So I will offer free coaching. Right. I will offer insights. I will go and attend classes. All right. So that I can practice and enhance my skills. Okay. Getting experiences is also a good way to actually give you some more ideas and insights as to what's happening in that role. Right. So for example, I talk to a lot of coaches. What is it like being a career coach? Sometimes going into part-time jobs or contract jobs can turn into permanent jobs. Okay, so when you're going to a situation where you say, oh yeah, no point lah, go and join something that's part-time only, I don't think it's going to help me. No, right? Think of it in a way to say that, hey, maybe I have an opportunity. If I do well in that part-time job, maybe the company will turn it into full-time for me or permanent. Okay, but this one is, I think, probably the most beneficial here. When you are trying out all these new areas, one of the biggest benefits is that you get access to a wider network of people who can eventually help you later on. Okay, so that is the key thing here. So how do you get all these new experiences? Obviously, if you are still working right now, participate in new projects or volunteer for new projects. Okay, if you are not working, go for either do voluntary work, all right, or go for internships like going through the career trial under WSG. Okay, let me sort of share that link for the WSG with you if you don't have it. Let me just do that. Okay. Okay. WSG link is there. All right. So try it out. Try it out. Okay. If you have an opportunity, try to get more experience, especially if you're going to a new area. Very, very important. Okay. All right, I need to move on quickly because it's already 4:04. I've gone through past my time. Okay, so this one I think very quickly, I'm just going to run through with you. Resume interview. Okay, the purpose of a resume is what? The purpose of resume is not to get a job. Purpose of resume is to secure an interview. Remember this. All right, the interview is to get a job. Okay, so there were some questions on what do we say during the interview itself. What can we say? So I think at the end of it, we need to prepare. We need to know what is going on outside there. And the reason for this is that we need to customize our resumes, our interviews to address the company's immediate issues. Right? And really is to focus on accomplishments here. Really focus on accomplishments. Okay. I wanna give you a sample here. I don't know whether you all recognize this or not. Do you know whose CV is this? You take a look at this CV. Can you type in the chat box whose CV do you think this is? Give you a minute or so to take a look. Whose CV do you think this is? Not mine, huh? See, wow, you're very good, huh? Bill Gates, right? I just came across this a few days ago. All right. So, but this was in the 70s, I think, or maybe even earlier than that. In those days, you could get away with CVs like this. Right? You can get away with CVs like this, but you can't do that in today's world already. Yeah. So I'm going to give you a link to some people who actually critique Bill Gates' resume at that time. So let me just share this article with you. Right? And I thought it was very interesting. So let me share this. Okay. So this is an article that of people saying how bad Bill Gates' CV is in today's context. All right, so I thought it was very interesting. But I think just a few quick words about resumes right now. Most of the time, resumes are essentially, most common one is the one that we call the hybrid format. The reason why it's the most common one is simply because it actually fits in with a lot of people's objective because it's skills and experience focused. Okay, skills and experience focus, because especially if you are someone who has got multiple career tracks, you got a gap in your career, you got a long career history, or you want to change career. So this is very, very useful format. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, so this is the most popular way of doing it. Although recruiters like the function the chronological format because it allows them to spot gaps. But when you're first applying for jobs, putting your skills and experiences up top first as a summary really helps the reader a lot. Okay, so some overview about what we should do as far as resumes are concerned. So let me share that link with you just again I saw this write up about hybrid resumes, which I thought again might be interesting for you again. So I put it into the chat box. Okay, so you can take a look. So essentially, if you're focusing on accomplishments, these are the things you need to watch out for. Okay, make it short, right? Maximum 2 pages. Use a lot of keywords that's relevant to the industry or the job, okay, and then show how how strong you are, what initiatives you have in terms of independence, problem solving, how action oriented you are, okay, and then make sure you put in results. Results are so important. Don't ignore the results that you have achieved, right? So this is what I mean by accomplishments, right? Accomplishments is personified by results that you have achieved, okay, right? So that's resume. Interview similar, okay, but here the trick here is this: you must prepare. Okay, so before the interview you brainstorm examples that show how good you are, of the things that you have done, the accomplishments that you have done. Okay, brainstorm and get these examples ready in your head. Okay, when during the interview, all right, you use that format, the situation, task, results, action results format, the STAR format. Okay, now there's a lot of information on the internet about what STAR is, so take a look at that, right? But the thing here is really to make sure that you are a problem solver. You are able to help people solve problems. How you solve the problem? Maybe through creative ways, maybe through resilience, give examples of that. Okay, resume interview. Okay, so coming back to that question earlier on about how do we answer questions that from a company that expects somebody to be very focused on hardworking people, and then you don't want to be in that situation. So my suggestion to this is that instead of lying, you don't want to lie. Okay, maybe you don't put yourself in that situation. You need to then dig and find out and do your research as to whether that company's culture really suits what you want. Okay, so that's where the target company, the bucket list comes in. You have to do your research and find out the culture. How you find out the culture, how you find out more about the company, what nature, talk to people, whether it's through internet, okay, talk to the network, talk to people who work there, talk to people who know the company. That's how you find out. So my apologies if you think that this is a very shortcut way of doing things in order to get information. No, nowadays you have to go out and make an effort. Okay, you have to go out and make an effort. All right. I spent the last 20 minutes on this. Taking action. All those things I mentioned there, right? This session not enough to go through in depth into everything that I've said there, but I think suffice to say the whole idea here is that you need to take action. Don't sit on your bum. You have to go out and do things. You have to go out and do things. Okay? And the whole focus of you doing all those things is to make sure that you get credibility. You get credibility. Questions? Right. Let me summarize this and then we have opportunities for more questions. All right? Okay, so I spent the last almost 2.5 hours talking about coaching yourself to career success. And the learning outcomes I hope you have by now is really knowing what is self-coaching, what it takes to do self-coaching effectively, and also the framework to do this effectively. And the framework here essentially is these 4 components that I just shared with you. Okay, so what are the 4 components itself? The first one is really about finding out your VIPS, essentially finding out what's important for you, what your strengths are, so that you can position yourself as a problem solver. At the end of this, when you have all of this, you would have the confidence to go out and present yourself to the marketplace. Right? Next portion is about options, right? But the thing about options here is this. One of the options that you need to look at is your current situation. So you really need to start with this. What is your real career issue before you go out and look at other things? Before you go out and look at other things, right? And how you get information about options is really putting your foot onto the street and going out and looking at finding out what target companies and talking to people through informational interviews. Okay, and the whole purpose, the whole focus for this particular category of exploring options is to give you possibilities, a list of possibilities, and you have the right information to make the right decision. That is the focus. Okay, I talked about getting focus, which is action planning. So here it is really about what? Finding out what you need to do in order to achieve your desired state. Okay. And at the end of the day, it's really about being prepared. Being prepared. Okay. So all the action, the goal setting, the actions that I've given you the template for, those are useful framework for you to create something like this. Then the last part, which I just finished, was how you take action. So the key idea here is this. When you are going out and taking action and meeting people, creating network, it is not about you. It's more about how you can help them solve their problem. That is the focus. So you need to establish credibility when you are going out there to the marketplace. Okay? Right. If you want to take a screenshot, by all means do so. Okay? Screenshot time. Okay. Many of you have sent in questions by email to me before today's session. So I'm going to address those questions that if I'm not already addressed earlier on. Okay. So one good question was really, what are the blind spots when you are doing your self-coaching? And this is something that's also related to coaches when they are talking to other clients. What are the blind spots that we have to understand? Okay. So first things first, you have to be in the right frame of mind when you are looking at coaching yourself. What would I mean by right frame of mind? You cannot be rushed. You cannot be in an angry mood. You have to be calm. You have to be able to sit back and look back and reflect. Okay? So that is the most effective way to start the process of self-coaching. All right? Be mindful of that. Next thing you need to be mindful of is accountability. Now, it's very easy for us to blame other people for the issues that we're facing right now. Don't spend too much time on that. Spend more time on what can you do, what can you control, what can you be accountable for. Okay? So take a step back, move aside those blame other people type of mentality. Look at yourself. What have you done? What can you do moving forward? If you feel that it's unfair for companies not wanting to hire people who are over 50, I know it's unfair, but can you do anything about it? You can't, right? So move on, right? Look at companies that have that culture of hiring people above 50, for example, or look at how you can make yourself stand out so that companies have no choice but say, what, this guy is very, very attractive. He got the right experience, he got the right network to help me solve my problem. Focus on that. Okay. Next thing here is this. Try and take a step back and look at things in a different way, whether it's reframing or re-looking at things in a different way. Okay, so for example, if you're having difficulty finding a job right now, instead of being depressed about it, start thinking and say that, oh, actually there's a right job out there. I just need to know how to look for it. Right? So it is not about you having difficulty, it's about maybe you seeking help. Next one. Someone mentioned this earlier on. Paralysis by analysis. Now, a lot of the things that I've given you over the last couple of hours was activities, exercises for you to do. Now, don't fall into the danger of doing, and analyzing, but not moving forward. Okay? Go out. Sometimes some of those activities, you can come back to it later on, especially after you've talked to people, you've found out more things, you come back. Okay? So don't be paralyzed by analysis. Don't be paralyzed by analysis. No question. So let me round this off before I go into, for those people who have not been in my previous sessions before, in my next portion, I'll tell you how to access the recordings. But before we do that, I need your help, all right, to sort of help me fill up the WSG feedback form. So let me share the link again. Where is that link? Okay. You all can see there in my upcoming workshops. There's one that's actually live. Okay, that's in May. So those of you who have been asking me, but hey, when is going to be the live session and all that? So if you want to attend the live session, that will be in May. Okay. All right.
Can't wait.
Yes. So I've put the feedback form link is in the chat box itself. So please help me fill this up. All right. I'll give you 5 minutes. I think 5 minutes, and then I'll come back and go to the last portion on how you can access the video recording and how we can work together again. All right.
A few moments later.
To answer the first question on everybody's lips is, how do you access the recording for today's session? Okay, so essentially what I need to do is for you to fill up the form, which I've already put into the chat box. Okay, and basically the form is to allow me permission to send you the link to the recording in the form of a newsletter. Now, what I'm doing with this is that every month I will have one newsletter sent to people who subscribe. Mostly they are participants from my workshops, all right? And in there, I'll give you some insights, but more essentially is the recording link. All right, so you can do that. If you don't want to receive any more, by all means, you can unsubscribe. So no bother about that. Okay, so hopefully you got the link in the chat box that you can send in your email address so that I can send you, I have your permission to send you the link itself. All right. Next thing here is this. Those of you who want to connect up with me, essentially these are the few ways to do this. You can go onto LinkedIn to connect up with me, or you can go into my YouTube YouTube channel there. You can see all the recordings of some past workshops. I will only put up the latest workshops there, right? So those workshops that I've repeated myself, I will not put the older ones. I'll put in the most recent ones. Okay, and then my Facebook group is the link down there that you see. Okay, so that's another way. Okay, so far. All right, so next one here, all right, essentially is those of you who are interested to work with me as a client, and those I become your coach again. So that's another opportunity if you want to. Okay, again, no obligations here. I will give you a link to more information about this. I'll put it into the chat box so you can take a look. All right, so again, it's up to you. So essentially, I only coach by packages. I don't go by ad hoc. All right, so I've got one package on hidden job market. I got one on redesigning our career. I've got one that's basically talking about how can I accelerate your job application process, and these are the things I talk about here. All right, and for those of you who have attended my past workshops before, there will be a percentage off for the fees itself. So you can take a look at that session out there, the web page. All right, the link is in there. All right. Then those of you who are interested in actually thinking of being a career coach, okay, I will conduct courses as well to certify people to become career coaches. There are lots of courses out there, but I think this is one option for you to consider. Again, the difference that I have with other people is that I do conduct, my course is actually internationally recognized. All right, so it is globally recognized. So that's probably something. So it depends on what you want to achieve. There are some local courses where you can get recognized only locally, but there are some that's internationally recognized. So you can go for that as well. So the link again for more information is in that chat box. If you want to find out more, just feel free to email me. Okay, I don't take large classes. I'll take very small classes. In fact, maximum is 6. I do a lot of one-to-one classes, but that is subject to the person, the interview process. Okay, I need to interview you to see whether you are suitable for a one-to-one coaching session or not. I mean, one-to-one instruction session to become a career coach, right? But minimum is that I will do maximum I'll do with 6 people, right? So hopefully those gives you some idea as to how we can continue the relationship with each other if you want to, or if you just prefer to come to my workshops, that's fine. I don't mind. But I think at the end of the day, what I hope that we can do is that we keep in touch. Okay, my LinkedIn profile, my website, and all that is there. So please do keep in touch and tell me how you are progressing. But I do also hope that today's session gives you an idea of my focus as far as careers is concerned. It's really how you add value to other people. Okay, if you see here, right? So it is what difference we make to other lives of other people that makes us more fulfilled. Okay, now obviously many of us would think that, but that's not very practical. But you really think about it, if people recognize you for the way you help them, you will become in demand. And once you come into demand, that means a lot of people come and look for you, then the rewards will come already. Okay, so maybe one way to look at things is, instead of focusing on the money, the opportunities, it's just focusing on how you help other people. That's my philosophy, my personal philosophy. All right. Enough wekoyo, enough preaching. Today, that's the end of the session. It is now 4:35. I exceeded by 5 minutes, but I hope you found it beneficial and useful after the 2 hours. Again, keep in touch. If there's nothing else, I guess that's it, everyone. Stay safe. I know it's mask off times already, but I think it's still worthwhile just being careful lah. Just being careful. All right. So take care, everyone. All right. Be good.
Thanks,
Be good.
Ewan.
Be
See you
safe.
soon. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.